We have got about 700 reservists and deferred regulars on board this ship.
You think it went?
Well, I'm prepared to say something about it from the military point of view only. Now,
Very much so.
Right, sir.
Well, now, we left England on the 3rd of November and arrived at Port Said on the 11th, some 5 days after the ceasefire had taken place in Egypt. Whilst we were in Egypt, we spent 2 weeks in Port Said and 1 week in the forward Allied position at El Cap. Throughout this period, the morale of the men was absolutely first class. They really were in terribly high spirits. They were very disappointed, naturally, that the ceasefire had taken place before we got there, because the impression everyone had was that we went out there to do a job of work. As far as one could see, one hadn't really accomplished what one had set out to do. However, that is not for me to say, and eventually we were given 24 hours notice to withdraw, and we were on board the Dawara and sailed on the 6th of December, arriving in UK last night.
What about you, Corporal?
How many of the 2,000 men on this ship are reservists, sir?
well, we've got about 700 reservists and deferred regulars.
Can you just hold on a minute? We heard a lot of grumbles about reservists when they went. What was your experience then?
Well, so far as the reservists in the 3rd Division were concerned, we had no grumbles at all and absolutely no trouble from any of them.
What happens to the men now?
Well, what we do with them now is we send them back to their peacetime locations where all the kit and stores are stacked, and then we hope to get them all away on Christmas leave. The Army was given a certain task, and in my view, the Army carried out that task quite splendidly. They carried it out very quickly, with a very minimum of casualties to themselves, and with a minimum of damage to Egyptian territory.
Naturally, the men are delighted to be home for Christmas, a thing they didn't expect, and they're now all going off on Christmas leave, followed by a short spell of privilege leave, and the battalion will really not reform completely until about the middle of January.
Do you expect to be back so early for Christmas?
No, sir.
When did you go out there?
Well, we were called up on the 9th of August and we went out about 6 weeks ago, sir.
And you been released?
Yes, sir. We go back to Dover Connaught boats tomorrow and then we're finished from 2 o'clock onwards. It's all over for us.
Are you surprised to be home so soon?
Well, very surprised. When we first got on the boat, we all thought we was going to Cyprus. And then they told us just before we sailed that we was going back to Blighty. We was very pleased.